Hi, I'm AC Moon. Welcome to CannaBiscuits TV.
Hi guys, it is Tamika L. Sims here, and I am so excited for this conversation, and I will tell you why in just a minute. I actually had an opportunity to meet this young woman during the Real Cannabis Entrepreneur 420 Festival that happened recently, and I just absolutely loved her energy. And you guys know here on CannaBiscuits TV, we keep it super, super exclusive. And I just knew that y'all would fall in love with her the exact same way that I did for the 20 or 30 minutes that I saw her on screen, literally. So we have with us today Miss AC Moon. She is a certified master grower, an inventor, a patent holder, a CEO, an entrepreneur in her own right in the cannabis industry. And I am so excited for us to have this conversation on today. So AC, welcome to CannaBiscuits, and thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time.
Thank you. It's good to be on. I love to meet new people. Great entrepreneur energy here.
Great. Thank you so much. So for those of us that's watching that this may be their first time meeting you, tell us a little bit about your background and how you actually got started in cannabis.
Well, I have to admit that it's been a really long journey. I started back in 1999 as an advocate, working pretty much as a bud tender for the third floor in Oakland and other places. Started growing on my own property off grid, started my first edibles company in 2001, pretty much taking all these recipes that my mom had taught me how to make with confections and candy and everything and infusing it with my own homegrown stuff because we're off grid out in the middle of nowhere. We kind of got that homesteading, like DIY, do everything yourself, even when it's too much. And went on to pretty much cultivating for 23 years now. I got my degree in horticulture and went on to building several different farms, working with different dispensaries. Started my own dispensary in 2005. Went on to, this is all on medical platform of California, which was under Proposition 215 when we were first starting out, far before recreation and what laws have created now. So we've done this journey from advocacy and rubber bullets from the cops trying to stop us from opening these clubs in Oakland, all the way to where we're watching people with billboards in the middle of the freeway just going, buy our weed. So the journey's been long. We dealt with the many federal raids and all the different prohibition measures that they tried to put on us, and started writing. I'm currently writing for Grow magazine and doing my own publications. Just finished a kids books and a couple other contents that you'll see in magazines around the area. See, 2009 really went south, started working in Los Angeles, North Hollywood, and getting really inclined to help with people with opiate addictions and trying to multimedia the cannabis edibles platform, the cannabis flower platform, and really making it so that it was multi-diverse, not just cancer and AIDS patients and many different medical elements. As we all know, we're seeing it regurgitated information pretty much everywhere, but also to see people come down off addictions, to actually fight pill use, pharmaceutical abuse, and everything else. More federal raids came, kept on writing, kept on cultivating, kept on going to college, and started patenting and inventing. And I invented my first product and got a federal patent. Took 6 years to do that. And so I'm the owner and inventor of CropTopsGreenhouses.com, where it's an instant portable pop-up greenhouse that protects plants from storms and is also used as a quarantine for pest management, different type of integrative pest controls or cloning, or maybe a little research product. Lots of different people use it for different things. I've even had hippies use it as a shower when they're camping, and so got that and went on to learning patenting. I got about 23 different trademarks owned throughout. Began consulting, still cultivating in my own farm. I have 40 acres off grid here in Northern California that I'm working on becoming a legal medical farm, or I guess it's legal recreational farm now. See, we have to evolve our language.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So you get to kind of play with the verbality there a little bit. Still cultivating. I started Indica Innovations International, and so I consult about cultivation, product management, product innovation, intellectual property, infusions, all of these aspects on an international level, helping third world countries, a lot of predominantly Black countries and Asian countries, help to join their markets, because each one of these countries is joining the medical marijuana platforms, and we're really hoping to create world unity. And then also helping in the hemp space to innovate new products. And so that brings me around to, again, still writing, help with Grow Magazine here. We got a couple of books out on Amazon that you can find. Pretty much Google me all over the place. And I just love to help people and love seeing entrepreneurs get their hands into their dreams and kind of like mold them into what they want. So that's my story. I am CGMP, FDA, OSHA, OMRI, Sigma 6, IPM, and Master Gardener certified. So I can say that I have an addiction to education and cultivation.
I like that, having addiction to education and cultivation. That's so amazing. Your background is just so impressive with what you've been able to do, being in the industry for more than 20 years. What is it? Oh, what'd you say, 23 years?
Yeah.
So that's just incredible to be a veteran in this space and have learned so much. And really, even as you were talking just a minute ago, we even have to, where you've had to grow and evolve your language because things have just changed now from when you started out. So that's really, really exciting. So because I don't touch the plant, so I'm not familiar with the process of growing and cultivation, whether in the home or otherwise. Talk to us a little bit about that process. I understand you start from a seed, and so from that seed, walk us through sort of the process until we actually see the plant.
Well, you normally would germinate a seed, and I normally encourage people to germinate as close to where they pollinate. And so that's basically finding strains and genetics that may be local or closer to you. I don't necessarily want to grab something from California in a New York environment. Plants have to have an opportunity to adapt. And yes, they'll grow, plants will grow anywhere, but the best one is where you pollinate. So choose a strain that's from closer to you. You're gonna take that seed and you're gonna go ahead and soak it in water overnight. And so when you get a hold of some cannabis seeds, just go ahead and put it in a cup of neutral water. You wanna make sure it's not really tap water, but maybe out of a little bit of a bottled water so that we know it's neutral without tons of fluoride and chemicals that we often get from our tap water. Go ahead and soak it overnight and find a nice growing medium that you agree with. There's so many different potting mediums now, it's impossible to keep up with that. And go ahead and bury it in there. And so about this far deep into your soil, at top that far, and then go ahead and put it under a warm light source. And that light and that heat is gonna make it vibrate on the inside and be all like, woo, I'm becoming a plant. And then after a while, you can learn practices of what we call cloning. And cloning is where we take cuttings off of that mother plant and turn it into many, many different plants. And so that's a whole process of its own, as well as tissue culture, where we take singular cells off of that mother seeded plant and are able to propagate it and proliferate in that way. So let's see, we would go on to transplanting it. Of course, every bit, it's kind of like a fish, in a fishbowl. It'll only grow as big as the container that you give it. Okay. And so if you only want a cannabis plant that's this big, then only give it a little container about this big. So the rule of thumb is normally the root structure goes out about the same width as the canopy. The canopy is of the skirt of leaves. And so that the leaves kind of, that's what we call a canopy. So that whole circle area, the roots will expand to about that same area. And so keep transplanting as it gets a little bit bigger. Okay. Once it gets to about the 1 foot area, you have a 1 gallon pot that you normally can find at any Home Depot, whatever type of thing. Always making sure that you don't have really nasty water. There's a lot of cities that have toxic chemicals in their water, and that will make your plant be a little bit upset at you sometimes. And so through that, plants right now are coming on with, there's a lot of genetics that we have are called autoflower. Okay. Autoflower is a totally different way of creating cannabis, but it's becoming very easy for the home grower because you're not having to learn the entire cultivation process. Normally, cannabis plants are what we call photosensitive. Photosensitive means that with light, we're able to manipulate that plant. Mm-hmm. So with 12 hours of light, we have a plant that's starting to flower because it believes that it's almost harvest time. It believes that it's September or October. So in indoor light, what they do is they play God by turning the lights on and off and making it believe, the plant believe, that it's out in Mother Nature, and then, oh, it's October. Oh, wait, it's spring. And, and so it manipulates it. The new strains that are coming out are autoflowers, and these have a ruderalis base that are not photosensitive. And so you have a plant that's based on genetic time. So maybe no matter what, in 3 months, that plant is going to go into a flower. But with normal cannabis strains, that wouldn't be true. It would go as long as there's light available for it. It will not flower until that light drops below the 12-hour limit. But the autoflowers, it's just about time. So in 3 months, no matter what, doesn't matter how much you turn on or off that light, you're able to have a plant like ready in a couple of months. So choosing your strains or how you're going to grow for your home grow is always really important. Educating yourself about what a plant is. I really like to tell people, grow a spider plant or any sort of house plant, and you'll start to get an understanding of what the process is. And so once it goes into flower, you change your nutrient situation. You kind of drop it to where there's more potassium and everything. I won't go into that because I know that's much further onto your learning curve than we're ready for right now. But then it flowers, and different genetics will flower and finish flower and come into fruition or become, mature with anywhere between 8 to 14 weeks. So there's a huge span of time of where sativas will take longer, indicas will be a shorter amount of time, and autoflowers right now are the shortest. So once that's done, you see the little amber trichromes, little crystals and hairs that are up on the top. They're kind of the color of my hair. Once they come up and start getting nice and fruity and big and they smell like heaven, go ahead and cut them off, put them in your drying room, make sure it's nice and cool and nice and dark, and don't expose it to any light, and voila, before you know it, you got cannabis.
I love that voila at the end. And I love that analogy of bringing in, taking care of a general house plant, because sometimes, it's, of course, you want to make sure that you're educated on the cannabis plant, but the basic premise is, you got to be able to take care of a simple plant.
Yes.
Yes. You got to be able to take care of a simple plant. Like for me, I like house plants. So I talk to them, water them.
Oh yeah, me too.
Make sure they get the proper sunlight and things like that. So I love that. That's also a part of the process as well.
I always tell the boys, not to interrupt, but all the teenage boys, I always tell them, if you ever want to have a family, start with a house plant. If you can consistently keep a house plant alive, you might have a chance at a dog, and then one day you might have a chance at a family.
So you got to work your way up to the maximum. I love that. I love that. So you see, guys, I see what I'm talking about. See how much value we've gotten so far. We're just getting started into the interview. So again, thank you again so much, AC, for an opportunity to talk with you on today. So from a growing and cultivation space, I know that you work nationally and internationally. What do you see as some of the future trends that we can expect to happen over the next few years?
Well, trends could mean so many different things, but obviously we're seeing the huge trends of, I consider CBD a trend. I know it's a little bit weird, but for me, working in the THC space predominantly for over, 20 years, really I see that there's so many different opportunities for cannabis research and phytocannabinoid research. Okay, so two bigger words. Phytocannabinoids are the 123 different cannabinoids that are found in cannabis. Okay. THC, tetrahydro delta 9, is the first predominant cannabinoid. So that's where we get the whole canna word from. And then CBD, CDC, THCV, and a whole plethora of other phytocannabinoids that become bioavailable when we manipulate the plant in different ways. And so I know that CBD has always been used as a health and wellness, just like seeds from the hemp plant in India and many other Asian countries has always been made into hemp oil, which has always been available to us in like Whole Foods or different places. That's never been an issue for us to have hemp seed products within our commerce. It's always been true. It's never been illegal. But now actually having hemp flower products and everything else is creating this huge boom. And I love it because it's opening the doors worldwide. It's
Yes.
blowing the doors off of prohibition and opening pathways and everything else. But as we have research, the trends will be the phytocannabinoids as they become exposed individually, as we find out how we can elemental or commercialize each element as they come out. Right now it's a CBD boom. Next it's going to be a Delta 8 boom. Next it's going to be a THCVA boom. And then it's going to be every phytocannabinoid is going to bring its own boom. And and that's how I feel like the trends are really going. There's a huge trend uptick of people producing a lot of cannabis affiliated inventions or products. Most of the time they're not, first to brain inventions. A lot of the times it's knockoffs of other things, and then they're like, oh, I've created something cannabis. It's like, no, you just knocked off something mainstream and put cannabis affiliation on it. So that trend is really becoming more popular, and I'm asking people, be really conscious of your inventions, be conscious of what we're using in sustainability and your packaging and your products and your pens that you make for swag. It doesn't matter. Let's just be conscious of what it is we're creating, because all we're doing in the end is filling landfills and creating a whole bunch of hype for our companies. So I really like to see the trends be more sustainability coming together and being conscious of organic growing, because we have such a huge effect on our kids, on our drinking water, on our food, and eventually on our health. And so cannabis can be a catalyst for that. And if we're conscious of moving the trends in a correct direction, instead of making it TikTok twerking, we can make it cannabis working, to make the whole world work together.
No, I think that's great. So do you see now, for those that have an interest in entering into the industry, do you see now as being the right time? Or
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. If people have a passion for ancillary aspects, or yourself in media, become a podcaster, people create products, create edible lines. There's so many different things that we can do right now. You can literally put THC and CBD into anything. I can show you how to infuse anything on the planet, period. From barbecue sauce to Kraft macaroni and cheese, we can infuse it all. And so it's just a matter of finding your entry point. And I kind of consult with people a lot lately, especially since the entrepreneurial conference. People are finding their door. They're looking for their door. And so I look and I say, well, what's your skill set? What have you already done? You can incorporate cannabis into anything. And so if you're a woodworker, start making things that have cannabis symbols on them. Make garden signs. Make something. If you're a steel worker, make something with steel that's cannabis affiliated. If you're an interviewer, interview cannabis people. I mean, we all have our thing. I'm just like, oh, and just follow that train of thought until you actually are like, you'll wake up and be like, holy cow, I'm actually in the cannabis industry. I don't know if I want to be here yet.
No, I love that. And I love the practicality of what you said just now. A lot of times I think especially when we're entering into something new, we tend to make it more difficult than it actually has to be. It's really just about being yourself. Who are you? Who were you separate from the cannabis industry, and how can you see the two of those things really working together? How can you infuse who you are into the cannabis space and find a lane, create a niche for yourself, start to make some of those connections and build those relationships so you really can get your foot in the door. And I love that you said that, people are looking for their door. And I think that that's one of the ways that they can most definitely, find that space for themselves and walk right into it.
Oh yeah. We're like our genuine, authentic selves. That's when we actually can find our passions, and we're able to become entrepreneurs on next levels and level up every time, because a lot of people are like, okay, they choose something way out of their ballgame, it's awesome. I love that somebody wants to learn how to cultivate when they've only worked in restaurants, or something that's just, completely a ball field away from each other. Yeah. But it is a complete life change. And when you're headed towards your midlife area and in ages such as, 30, 40, 50, whatever, you're looking to enter it in as something that's a fluid way. If you're at 20 years old starting out, by no means, please go to college, learn botany, learn horticulture, learn whatever it is.
Yeah.
But if you're closer to where I've already had 20 years in another career, I mean, cannabis is affiliating and commandeering so many different aspects, from alcohol to, our food and tourism. And literally every aspect of our world is being infiltrated by cannabis affiliation. So it's a good chance that you're going to be able to take your already set career path and be able to mesh it or make it into a little camouflage version and reinvent yourself. I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to reinvent yourself, because all it's a little twerk and then there you are. You just made yourself something different.
Yep, that's right. So what do you find most rewarding about your work?
That's a hard one. Woo! Let's see. My reward for now is helping people. I love being able to open these doors and saying, okay, I have all of this knowledge, I have all this experience. The feds came in, we're fighting the good fight. And for right now, I don't agree with federal legalization, because it's giving us so many entrepreneurs an opportunity to get their foot in the door before they take it all over. Because once the federal legalization happens, they'll take it all over. That's just period. There's a monopoly that's going to happen that's going to be way beyond any of our capacity to be able to regurgitate. So right now, helping people get their foot in and say, okay, who's my people? Who's my people all over the world? Who's my people? And let's all come together and make this, because I love inventing. I love being in the garden. I love these things. I love so much about my career and what I do. I love to write. I love to share these stories. I love sitting down and smoking a joint with another entrepreneur and just coming up with some crazy idea that all of a sudden became super real. And then you're like, holy cow, we just did that. There's so many great things about the industry, though, but I think my favorite is definitely helping inspire others to not be afraid of change.
Yeah.
And that this catalyst of change right now, I was telling everybody, everybody says it's a gateway drug, but it's a gateway to the garden. We're able to start, you want to grow your own tomato now? Yeah. Oh yeah, let's figure out what's in your food, buddy. And it's going to be a catalyst for changing the world, I think.
I love that. I love that's phrasing. It's a gateway to the garden, because to me, when you walk into a garden, just the possibilities are endless. It's rows and rows and rows of fresh fruits and vegetables and whatever it is that you desire to grow. As far as your eyes can see where the land goes, that's how much you can dream and see the possibilities, and the fact that there really aren't many limitations on what you can produce. So I absolutely love that analogy. So
and it's all medicine. Food is medicine. Our food, yes. And what we put in our body, these plants are medicine.
Yeah, no, and we forget that. And that's what I tell people all the time. Once I told folks that I was in cannabis media, the first question always is, are you doing drugs?
Not yet, but I'm working.
No, you have to understand that there's so much more to this plant, so much more to this industry than just smoking. And so that's a part of the conversation and education that I find myself doing is, listen, if you are willing to open your mind, and if you're willing to just sit down and let's talk about this, I can educate you, even with my limited knowledge, and just share with you what I've been able to learn. And if you have interest in share with you how you could possibly, put yourself in there. So it's all about education, as you said earlier. We have to be willing to have these conversations about things that may have been, considered taboo, or something we don't fully understand. Because that's what I'm finding, is that we just don't fully understand it. And all the knowledge and information we have is things that's from the 80s or the 70s and 80s, where it was
30s that
yes.
I try to tell people, look around yourself.
Yeah.
The wooden table that I'm sitting on is made out of a plant.
Yeah.
This wooden table is made out of a plant. This paper is made out of a plant. This obviously is a plant. That's made out of a plant. All this is made out of a plant. The paint is probably mostly made out of plants. I mean, there's a lot of petroleum in that too. Yeah. But literally everything in your medicine cabinet, everything around you, it's all made out of plants. It's all just synthesized plants. Aspirin is a birch tree.
Wow.
So if you know what a birch tree is, these different, all these aspergillus, this is aspirin. And what they do is they rob us of the information so that they can synthesize it and commerce off of it. And then they don't let the average person know, so that they can make you pay for it forever.
Yes.
And right now, my mission is to make sure that everybody doesn't go broke turning cannabis into a drug, where they're like, dude, I need to get this dub sack from this dispensary over here. I can't afford it. I'm on welfare or whatever. How can I get cannabis? And then all of a sudden it turns back into a drug.
Yeah.
We've lost everything that we've gained from our knowledge of all these years of prohibition. And they're like, all I need is that $50 for a dub. And it's like, no, like, wait 3 months and you can grow that yourself.
Yeah. No, and that's the facts. And you guys heard it right here on CannaBiscuits. So there it is. So as a more than 20-year veteran in this industry, AC, what's your advice for someone looking to enter into the space? You've said that you agree that now is the time, but for someone that's saying, I'm ready, I'm just waiting on that opportunity, what's your one piece of advice for them?
Be prepared for a journey that's a lifetime of change, and be prepared to break down your stigmas, break down your walls. Over there on the East Coast, there's a huge amount of prevalent stigmatizing, especially in the minority groups. I mean, not just being Black or Asian or the Pakistani or a billion different other flavors of human, or being a woman, but just the stigma of being a cannabis user is something that we have to battle from the grass up, because somebody could walk into a bar, walk out tanked, drive home, and nobody's tripping. Right. But you smoke a joint in public and all of a sudden they're like, you're breaking the law. So just be prepared to be fighting the stigma. And at every single point in time, you're like ready to be in the rebellion, but in a really respectful, conscious, I'm changing the world way. Do it as an advocate. Break the law as an advocate. Don't break the law as a criminal. There we go. It's just kind of keep yourself really dedicated. And if you really want to, join the movement, but know that you're going to get knocked down 70 times before you get up once. And just have the balls to do it. You can do it. There we go.
I love it. We need to get that for you on a t-shirt. Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
So what's next for you, and how can our viewers connect with you?
Right now, I'm actually going to school as an ISO internal auditor. So ISO is an internal standards organization that is a worldwide standard that takes basically all of the FDA, OSHA, OMRI, USDA, all of the certifications that you would be familiar with in the United States platform. Is a worldwide platform out of Switzerland that governs all of the quality controls for the world. So basically creating the highest standards of the world and bridging that gap towards cannabis has been my next goal, and finishing a kid's book that I just wrote as well.
Oh, great.
So putting that on the deck as I become an internal auditor for environmental standards. So helping bridge towards going into laboratories or facilities and being able to say, oh, you're in compliance, you're out of compliance, and this is how we're going to organically remediate this product or this problem within your organization. So that should be fun, though a little bit weird to end up working in conjunction with the feds after fighting the feds for so long. But it's kind of a symbiosis in a way of hopefully we're just going to guide that change. Guide it towards a positive place, instead of, oops, there it is, and all of a sudden they just take over our industry. So hopefully I'm going to play a part in moving that industry in a positive way.
Right. I absolutely believe that you can. And then how can our audience connect with you? Where can they find you on the web, connect with you on social media?
You can find me at AC Moon on IG, AC Moon/Cameron on LinkedIn, AC Moon pretty much all over the place. You can Google AC Moon. I have not been shy since these last raids. It's time to stand up against it.
That's right.
But you can always email me at munchiemoon@yahoo.com. My websites are croptopsgreenhouses.com, as well as my company indicainnovations.com. So You can pretty much holler at me from any of those platforms.
That is wonderful. And so you guys, again, we keep it super exclusive right here on CannaBiscuits TV. And I have enjoyed this conversation with AC on today. So I'm sure that those of you that are watching this broadcast, watching this video, will feel the same, especially if you have an interest in growing and, you know, all the things that she shared as it pertains to what goes into that. So hopefully you found this of some value to you. And as always, you can connect with us on CannaBiscuits by visiting CannaBiscuits.com, subscribing to our YouTube channel, CannaBiscuits TV, and connecting with us on our social media platforms at Canna_biscuits, where we interview great entrepreneurs and business owners like AC Moon in the cannabis industry. So
Watch, we'll be putting out some real CannaBiscuits in no time. I'll send you some. They're really tasty. I'll show you how to infuse next time.
okay. Well, look, I love it. Let me know. We know how to connect with each other offline, so I'm looking forward to that. So that is all for today's interview. Thank you so much again, AC, for giving us a few minutes of your time. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, and we will see you guys next time.